Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on an exploration of, well, a really profound question, one that shaped human history. Is war just an inevitable part of who we are?
Or is lasting peace actually, within reach?
Exactly. We're taking a deep dive into a fascinating educational paper. It's titled Beyond Abolition, Peace as Humanity's Evolution, and it comes from the Human and AI Institute.
An organization really looking at that intersection of human development and technology.
Right. And our mission today really is to unpack its core argument. The idea that peace isn't just a pause, a gap between conflicts, but it's this transformative force, something that could genuinely move humanity beyond war itself.
Yeah, this paper really challenges a long-held belief, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It invites us to rethink something often considered, unthinkable.
That war is just baked into our nature.
Exactly, that it's inescapable. It pushes us to see how maybe even brilliant thinkers might have perhaps overlooked our incredible capacity for change, for evolution.
Okay, let's unpack that conventional wisdom first then, because, for millennia, war has felt like this constant shadow, right?
It certainly has.
And the paper points to thinkers like Sigmund Freud. He put forward a pretty bleak view of human nature, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Can you walk us through Freud's theory a bit and why it led to this idea that war might be some kind of psychological necessity?
Absolutely. So Freud's psychoanalytic framework, it introduced these two sort of competing drives at the core of our nature.
Okay.
There was eros, that's the life instinct. It drives love, creativity, survival, all the constructive stuff.
Right.
And then there was thanatos, the death instinct, this powerful compulsion towards aggression, destruction, even self-destruction.
Thanatos.
And in that perspective, war wasn't really seen as an aberration, something unusual. It was more like a societal outlet.
An outlet.
For that innate destructiveness, a way for society to manage or, express this thanatos drive that Freud believed was just part of us.
Wow. So in that view, we're almost, doomed by our own biology. Feels pretty fatalistic.
It does. It certainly leans that way.
But this paper, it offers a really different take. It argues that while Freud's theory was, brilliant in many ways, it might have missed something vital.
Our capacity to evolve.
Exactly, our human capacity to evolve. How does the paper suggest our instincts have actually changed? And what's that fascinating analogy it uses? Yeah,
the analogy is really powerful. The paper frames it beautifully, saying human instincts haven't disappeared, not at all, but they've developed like musical instruments, gaining range and sensitivity.
Yeah, like musical instruments.
Yeah. It proposes that while we still carry those ancient strings, those basic drives, our instrument today, our evolved consciousness, can play vastly more nuanced, more complex symphonies.
So the drives aren't gone, but their expression, it's become more sophisticated.
Precisely. That's the key idea. The expression has transformed.
That's a really potent image instincts gaining range, like a musical instrument. Can you give us some concrete examples? How have these core drives evolved from what the paper calls their ancient expressions to their modern expressions?
Sure. Let's take the survival instinct. Anciently, that was very raw. Fight, flee, conquer. Pretty basic responses.
Right, very primal.
But today, the paper suggests its modern expression includes concepts like stewardship, thinking about long-term survival of the planet, resilience, building complex security systems that go way beyond just fighting.
Stewardship and resilience, that's a big leap from just fight or flee.
It is. Or think about social belonging. Anciently, that often meant strict tribalism, exclusion of the other.
Us versus them.
Exactly. But the modern expression, it's evolved towards ideas like global citizenship, empathy on a wider scale, even finding community in, digital spaces across the globe.
So the core insight here is that humans today operate with what? Transformed thinking, higher emotional intelligence.
Yes, and also unprecedented access to spiritual insights, educational resources.
Yeah.
All these things shape how those ancient instincts now play out.
That's a huge shift. It's not just about, trying to be nicer. It sounds like a fundamental change in how our brains can process threats and opportunities.
That's the argument, yes.
Right.
It challenges that idea of historical inevitability.
Which brings us to a really crucial distinction the paper makes, the difference between conflict and war.
Ah, yes. Very important.
It says conflict is sort of woven into human interaction, right? It naturally emerges from tensions, disagreements.
Which is perfectly normal, unavoidable even.
But, and this is the key part, war is not its inevitable outcome. So what's the difference there, according to the paper, and how does this idea of peace as a process fit in?
Well, what's fascinating here is the idea that conflict, which again is natural, only leads to violence and war if that underlying instinct is, let's say, unmanaged, if it's operating in its primitive state. But if that same instinct is transformed, guided by this evolved consciousness, by reason, by empathy, then conflict can actually lead to dialogue and resolution, constructive outcomes.
So it depends on how the instinct is channeled.
Exactly. And modern science is really backing this up now. Fields like neuroscience, psychology, even moral philosophy, they increasingly show that instincts aren't these fixed, rigid things.
They're adaptable.
Highly adaptable. They're
Yeah.
profoundly shaped by our culture, our education, even by intentional practice like mindfulness or ethical training.
Mm-hmm.
It really comes down to how we choose to engage with the tension that conflict brings.
So it really is about the how we choose to resolve conflict, not the conflict itself being the enemy.
Precisely.
Okay, so the paper then brings in support for this idea from, well, seemingly different areas, both spiritual traditions and modern science. What does it highlight from the Baha'i writings about the possibility of world peace?
Yeah, it connects this evolutionary idea to a broader spiritual perspective. The Baha'i writings, for instance, echo this vision quite strongly. They state that world peace is not only possible, but inevitable.
Inevitable. That's a strong word.
It is. It is the next stage in the evolution of this planet, in the maturity of the human race. So in this view, peace isn't just about stopping the fighting.
It's more than the absence of war.
Much more. It's the active presence of things like justice, unity, a kind of spiritual awakening. The idea is when our core drives truly shift, when survival becomes about stewardship, when belonging becomes about universal fellowship, then war genuinely loses its fuel. Its underlying drivers dissolve.
That's a profound reframing. Peace as an active state of maturity, not just a ceasefire.
Exactly.
And it's not just spiritual insight pointing this way, right? The paper argues modern science is also challenging Freud's more fatalistic view.
Absolutely. It's not just faith or philosophy. The science is catching up and perhaps converging.
So what fields and discoveries does it point to? What's the evidence that instincts can be rewired and these positive traits scaled up?
Well, modern disciplines offer some pretty powerful validation. Take neuroplasticity.
Okay, the brain's ability to change.
Right. It demonstrates that our brains, and therefore our instinctual reactions, aren't fixed. They can genuinely be rewired through new experiences, through learning, through conscious effort.
So we can literally reshape our responses.
The potential is there, yes.
Yeah.
And then there's epigenetics.
Ah, right. That's about how genes are expressed.
Exactly. It proves that our experiences and our environments significantly shape how our genes behave. It shows our surroundings, our choices, can influence our biology down to the genetic level. It's not just nature or nurture, it's a constant interplay.
Fascinating. So experience shapes biology.
Mm-hmm. And you also have social psychology confirming that things like empathy and cooperation, they're just, nice ideals. They are teachable skills.
Teachable and scalable.
And scalable, yes, across large populations. So the takeaway is we genuinely seem to have the tools now, the understanding and the methods to actually redesign the architecture of how we handle conflict, to move towards constructive collaboration.
This all sounds incredibly hopeful. I mean, almost revolutionary compared to the old war is inevitable narrative.
It is a fundamentally hopeful perspective, grounded in this idea of ongoing human evolution.
So if we accept this potential, this new understanding, what does it actually mean for building peace? What are the practical pathways? The paper talks about rethinking systems, right?
Right.
Across different sectors.
Yes, it moves from the theoretical to the practical. It raises that crucial question, how do we apply this understanding? And it outlines steps in 3 key areas.
Okay, what are they?
First, education. The emphasis here is on teaching things like emotional regulation, conflict resolution skills, global ethics, right from early childhood.
Be making it fundamental.
Exactly. Imagine a curriculum where these skills are just as core as, say, reading or math.
That would be transformative. What's
Yeah.
the second area?
Governance. This involves creating institutions, political, economic, social, that are centered on principles like equity, dialogue, restorative justice,
Moving away from.
moving away from relying primarily on militarized deterrence as the main tool for security, shifting the focus to building trust and mutual understanding.
Okay, education, governance, and the third.
The third is spirituality and culture. This is about consciously fostering narratives, stories, and cultural values that elevate unity, shared purpose, the sacredness of life,
Love what?
above narratives of dominance, division, and fear. It's about changing the cultural software, if you like, that shapes our collective consciousness.
Education, governance, and culture. Changing the software. That makes sense. This deep dive has really offered a new lens, hasn't it? A new way to view humanity's potential.
It really has.
And the paper concludes with such a powerful statement. It says something like, while Freud gave us a mirror to see our darker instincts,
we now hold the power to reshape the frame.
Yeah. Reshape the frame. That's a remarkable shift in perspective, moving from just observation to active creation.
Exactly. The message is that humanity isn't necessarily bound by these unconscious, unchangeable drives anymore. We're poised, potentially, to make peace a conscious choice.
A choice embedded in instinct, but elevated.
Elevated through knowledge, through understanding, and ultimately enacted through love and compassion, in the broadest sense.
And that seems like a fitting place to leave things for today. Encouraging this new conversation, the paper asserts, quite plainly, war is not a necessity, it is a habit.
And peace is the practice that can break it.
So maybe consider this. If war really is a habit, a deeply ingrained one perhaps, but still a habit, what are the daily practices you can cultivate? What are the systems you can support in your own life, in your community, that embody this transformative power of peace?
It might just be the most important work of our time, thinking about those small, consistent practices.
It really might be.